All right. Notice is hereby given of the regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield and the County of Union, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of Tuesday, September 17, 2013, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact the regular business of the Board and to transact any other business to come properly before the Board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield Board of Education on Friday, September 13, 2013, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star-Ledger, the Westfield Library, the Town Clerk of Westfield, the Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of the meeting. Dana, could we have a roll call?
Rich Matezek.
Here.
Lucy Biegler.
Here.
Ann Carey.
Here.
Mark Friedman.
Here.
Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Roseanne Kirstead.
Yes.
Jenny Lights.
Here.
Gretchen Oleg. Mitch Slater.
Here. All right. Mark, could you lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Announcements. Mark?
Yep. This is about the bond. On the ballot on Election Day, November 5th, there'll be a school bond referendum to replace a portion of the one approved by Westfield voters last December to repair and replace our school roofs. If we want to receive $2.7 million in newly released state aid, the state has required us to present what is essentially a redo bond to supersede the one passed in December 2012. It is not an additional bond. There is no additional roofing work or any other projects that will be added to the November 2013 bond. The projects on the November bond are among the same that were approved last year. Nothing is added. On the contrary, the November bond simply represents a reduction in the cost of the roof projects previously approved by Westfield voters. So here's the result. If approved by Westfield voters on November 5, 2013, the cost of the roof work to be completed during the summer of 2014 will be reduced by approximately 40%. If the new replacement bond is not approved by Westfield voters on November 5th, Westfield will lose the $2.7 million grant opportunity for the roofing work. Then, the previously passed referendum from December of 2012 will remain in effect. The roofs will still be repaired, but without state aid and at a higher cost. For more information on the November replacement bond, please check the district website. An updated frequently asked questions page has been posted this week. There's also information about voter registration and voting by mail.
Thank you. Ann?
Nothing.
Nothing? Anything, Lucy?
An announcement for all parents on Monday evening, September 30th. A special program for parents will be held in the Westfield High School Auditorium, 550 Dorian Road, beginning at 7:30 p.m. Hosted by Roosevelt and Edison Intermediate Schools, where the presentation has been held in the past, the high school auditorium was selected as the venue this year to accommodate parents at all levels and any community members who would like to attend. Guest speaker John Halligan, father of Ryan Halligan, will provide a unique perspective from inside a family of a child who is a victim of relentless bullying and cyberbullying. Ryan Halligan committed suicide at the young age of 13 on October 7, 2003. Audience members also gain a deeper understanding of the devastating impact on teen suicide and their family. There are many powerful life lessons imparted, including forgiveness and finding ways to turn a tragedy to hope for others.
Okay, this is about Westfield High School. A total of 95% of the Westfield High School graduates of 2013 are pursuing a higher education this fall. According to a report released by the High School Office of Counseling, 422 students are continuing their education, with 88.3% attending four-year colleges and universities, 5.9% attending two-year colleges, and less than 1% entering vocational, business, and other post-high school institutions. The remaining graduates have entered the workforce, pursued a military career, are taking a year off, or had future plans that were undecided at the time of graduation. The class of 2013 is attending an impressive list of 175 colleges and universities in more than 30 states. 5 graduates are studying in Canada, and 1 is selected at a university in Scotland. A complete list of plans will be posted on the Counseling Department's website at westfieldnjk.12/Westfield. You know where it is. You'll find it. Good stuff.
Some of you may have watched the recent YouTube video, A Teen's Guide to Understanding and Communicating with People with Autism. Westfield High School freshman Alexandra Jackman created a video aimed to encourage teens to understand and accept those with autism spectrum disorder. As an 8th grade student last year in the Teddy Roosevelt Scholars Independent Study Program at Roosevelt Intermediate School, she wrote and directed the video as her class project. Alexandra explained that the video is so important to her because she feels it could help anyone, especially typically developing teens, to feel that they can interact and get to know people with autism and not be scared of the differences. Alex stated that people tend to be more accepting when they are more knowledgeable. In creating the video, Alex asked the question, "What is autism?" to middle school students and teachers, parents of children with autism, an autism educator, and a doctor, and to the founder of the Autism Family Times, where she has been a peer mentor since she was 10 years old. Alex considers her peer mentorship very rewarding and hopes to continue her involvement with the special needs community in the future.
Great video.
Yes,
Really great
very
video.
great video.
It's amazing the work she did.
All right, our next Board of Education meeting will be Tuesday, October 1st at 7:30 PM here at 302 Elm Street. With that, I would ask to recognize the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, we'll move to the superintendent's report. Dr. Dole?
Thank you. So with a district that has 10 schools, one of our jobs at this table is to make sure that everyone in the district, in a large district with over 800 employees and 6,300 students, that everybody is moving in the same direction. So we do that in a number of different ways. First of all, we develop a strategic plan, and I'm going to mention that in just a bit. And then at various levels, we develop goals, both for individuals and for the organization on a whole. We've already sat at this table and spoken about things such as the board goals and merit goals, et cetera. But tonight the focus is on the district goals. What is the district going to work on jointly? This was actually discussed at a board workshop just last week, I believe that was, and it actually had even been discussed late spring, early summer, so that we could plan for the year. But tonight is the formal demonstration of the goals, and it is also the night where we'll ask the board to vote to approve the district goals. So let me just start with a review, as we always should, of our strategic plan. The strategic plan is developed for a 5-year period, in this case for 2010 to 2015, and we always, historically in Westfield, we involve the community when we develop this plan. We involve representatives from all different segments of our community in town, and we try to get a gauge of what do people think in this particular time, in this case was 2010, what is important, what is different, and then we come up with our plan for the next 5 years. So just briefly, we developed 4 main goals or objective areas in that strategic plan. The first one had to do with student achievement, and very specifically, it was talking about preparing our students with 21st century skills. It's one large goal area, and then we work on that each year. Also, student personal development. There we talked about the importance of developing an environment of mutual respect and integrity, something that we work on daily in the district. With finance and facilities, we certainly are focused on maximizing an efficient use of all district resources. And again, this board works very hard on that. And then communication and community engagement, again, something that we strive for in many different ways constantly. So that's what's involved in the overall strategic plan. But then each year, we focus on specific elements of that. And for this year, we have 3 goals. The first one has to do with a new teacher evaluation instrument. We certainly have always evaluated all of our teachers First of all, we think it's good practice. That's our main business, is what happens in our classroom, and we always observe and evaluate our teachers. But we also like to comply with state law, and that's required by the law. The state law, however, changed this year, and we spent last year looking at which of the options offered by the state we thought would be most helpful and most useful to make sure that the level of teaching in our classrooms remained high. And after quite a bit of work with a district committee, with input from all sides, we had decided on implementing what is called the Marshall Teacher Evaluation Model. So a number of steps for that. It is a brand new system, very different than our last one. So we started last year and continue to make sure that everybody has an understanding of this model, everybody has sufficient training. So that work has begun and will continue to make sure throughout the first year that everyone understands all the elements of this system. We also have already started working developing a district manual, which gives what the requirements are and also gives resources. In addition, we've provided quite a few resources online so that at any time administrators and teachers can go online and access a number of different resources to help them in their understanding and implementation of the model. There are a number of other districts who are implementing the Marshall model for the first time this year in New Jersey. For example, Milburn and Summit are two of our colleagues, as well as some others. Since we're all implementing them for the first time, we've actually started a group that meets so we can make sure we can learn from each other and make sure we're using best practices in the implementation of the new model. We want to make sure that everyone is using the system the same way. So as part of our regular administrator meetings, we are practicing for inter-rater reliability, looking at the same class lessons, evaluating them, sharing responses, and making sure that we are all using the same lenses when making our determinations. Once the summaries are completed, and a number of them are, these evaluations started on the very first day of school, then they are reviewed by me, and I provide feedback to administrators. We also have a district evaluation committee that we continue from last year, and that group met last week for the first time this year to review how is the implementation so far, are there things we need to be mindful of. Later on in the year, we'll be conducting surveys to determine the consistency and implementation and effectiveness, and then these evaluations will be what we utilize to make staff recommendations for the years after that. And there's a summary of the first goal. I can pause there to see if anyone has questions or suggestions regarding that first goal. Yes?
A comment to the Best Practices Committee. If I'm not mistaken, when I was at Union County Ed Services Commission, my recollection is that they're also using Marshall. So if you want to be in touch with, I think her name is Terry Fogert,
Okay.
the new superintendent, I think they would be happy to contribute and get involved in
Sure.
the discussion of your work.
We can certainly reach out, yes.
And then, as a final thought, following up on the task list, in our committee of the whole discussion, we talked about the fact that year one would be significant data gathering for understanding of from the benchmarks and how to assess going forward. So I just wanted to note that what I'd be looking for is a significant data preparation process that is outcome of this first year of implementing the model, so that an analysis for future instructional improvements can be based on an understanding of what happened the first year, how the model was implemented, and an understanding of instructional strengths and areas for improvement.
Right.
Noting that that's not really to be assessed, but that it's in preparation for year two.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the second goal. Second goal is talking about the development and use of benchmark assessments to measure growth of student performance. And we have already done quite a bit of work in order to provide resources for administrators to help in how do you develop long-term student goals. Teachers all the time develop the short-time ones and sometimes develop the long-time ones, but how do you develop long-term goals that really have an impact? So again, quite a bit of the information was gathered and was presented to administrators, discussed with administrators, but also provided to them online for ongoing resources. And there is a website available to our teachers and administrators for that. It was then to make sure all of our administrators were giving similar information to all of our teachers. Again, this was not work that's brand new this year, but we really gathered the research and provided it for the teachers to make sure that when we asked the teachers to establish student growth targets, that they were valid ones and ones that would impact our students. They're now developing all the student growth targets. They're now actually administering pre-assessments so that they can get data to start from and determine what the growth target should be. Throughout the year, they'll be tracking progress and adjusting instruction, and then we will have the results at the end of the year, and we'll be able to determine the attainment levels for all of our teachers on all these different student growth, all of these different benchmark assessments and growth. That is the second objective, and I'm pausing again. Well, my goodness, it's Mrs. Light.
Yes. I do have two questions, thank you. The second to last bullet, track progress. My assumption is you're talking about student progress?
Yes, it is, sorry.
Okay. And the final bullet, determine attainment levels. We're talking about what? Achievement? Attainment of the student growth objectives?
Yes, exactly, of the objectives themselves.
Right.
And so in some cases, they might meet the, what is targeted. In some cases, they may exceed it. In others, they may fall short of it but still make progress. So that's why it was written in that way.
And then also kind of following up on closing the feedback loop for this goal. I think it would be valuable to set ourselves up for the following year so that we understand, we take a real strong look at the growth targets that were identified, how they worked, how whether they were reasonable, achievable, important.
I think you're absolutely right. Again, although we've done work like this before, this is a bit different, and we are going to learn from that this year. And some of them are going to be, some of them are going to be more challenging, some of them are going to be more useful, some of them, somebody went out on a limb and tried something new, and we may find it wasn't the best. So I absolutely agree with you. We're going to have to learn from this and then use that the following year to make them even better for everyone.
And I would think that would be a really important part of your understanding of how successfully everybody was able to work within the requirement.
Right. I would agree.
Yeah. Okay.
So would part of the attainment of this goal be an analysis of the data collected with steps to move forward for next year?
I don't know when that can be accomplished, if it's too close to the cutoff of the actual assessment process, because if we're talking March and April,
That's right.
then I think a longer view might need to be taken May, June, July, in anticipation of 14-15 school year.
I agree.
Right? So I just don't want it, I know it's going to happen, but I felt compelled to say that it's really part of the cycle of the ongoing project, and it's got to be a foundation for moving forward.
Yes, I agree.
So, maybe you can make some comment after all is said and done for that first year and say, if you have any gut feel for it, or...
Right.
It probably be not well-founded, but it may be.
I think
You have to see.
You're right. A well-thought-out, full analysis will not be completed.
No.
On the other hand, I would imagine by then we will have learned some things as to what was more effective or less effective.
And it may be by educational level. You know, you may decide that one grade level at the primary years had a particular take on a target that worked better than another, or
Yes, absolutely.
so it's really important that, I know it's not going to get lost, but I think it will substantially help us understand a little bit more about the effort that was undertaken and how we're learning from it.
Yes. All right, the third goal. Third goal actually comes from the fourth objective of the strategic plan, and it talks about implementing new digital tools and media to improve communication between the school district and all stakeholders. So we've already started some work in this area. We've discussed at this table the work that has been accomplished, selecting a new website provider. There were many reasons why we wanted to do that, and some of our goals, we wanted to make sure it was off-site hosting, because last year, in the midst of Sandy, although we were able to communicate in other ways, anyone who had power was not able to access our website because it was hosted here, and we did not have power. So we've already moved our website to an off-site hosting, which is a good step. We also have talked about the fact that we want to utilize social media, and we want it utilized in an integrated way. And the system that we're using allows for that. So we do have a project manager who has been hard at work, and we've been working at designing the website and also focusing on the content that's most helpful. We're actually now in the process of presenting some basic ideas to focus groups. We've done some of that over the summer and also have some of that in the works right now, to get a sense of what it is that people are looking for and to get suggestions from all different groups of people. We actually have some teachers who volunteer to start working on the new website to give us their input and their feedback as to how it should work. And we have a number of people who are very excited about that and are coming up with some interesting ways to use the new system. And we are also in the process of providing many, many opportunities for teachers as they are ready to receive the training in that. So there's an overall timetable for that. Again, the initial work in this is going well. I know that the technology committee will be looking at it as we go forward and seeing the progress of the work we've done even to date. And I have to say, most people who are actually using it now, which is a small percentage of the district, they're very excited about it. It's a much better system, more intuitive, and they're much more they can do much more with this new system. So we're actually very, very much, it's a lot of work, but we're looking forward to it. All right, and then just a reminder, this is our mission statement for the district, and it is very important. I fairly miss a chance to remind people of what our mission statement is. This is why we exist. We don't exist for other reasons, and we have to work to prepare all of our students for the future. Questions on the goals? Or comments? I just wanted to do a brief, yes, you could vote on the goals now.
Should I read them, or is it sufficient to?
No, you don't have to, but somebody needs to move them in the approval.
I'll move them. Please.
I'll second.
Wait for a roll call. Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And just since we are now, we just finished our 9th day of school. Somehow it seems as though it's been more than 9 days, but 9th day of school this school year. And just a brief overview, I think our students are now back in the school routine. They've gotten used to those early mornings and long days. Our student athletes and the members of the high school band have been hard at work, and they're doing well on our fields. We have, we're at the point where we have back to school nights just about every night, and I believe that Gretchen Oleg just returned from a back-to-school night.
I did.
And I have to say, it went well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And I have to say, we really do appreciate the fact that we have almost 100% attendance at back-to-school night by parents. And that is not something we take for granted. That is a wonderful thing. We know we have the support and interest of our parents, and we appreciate that. Also want to say that our school resource officer has been on board since the very first day. School resource officer is Jeff Johnson. He has been busy getting to know the students and the staff at Westfield High School. He's also, to date, provided guidance to 2 of our other schools who were asking questions about some aspects of the emergency drills in their particular buildings. He's been attending some of our large sporting events and has been quite helpful at those. We also had some parents who had questions about some of the current social media sites out there and questions regarding what their children were using or what their children's friends were using. And as it turns out, the school resource officer is very up to date on the current social media sites, and he was very helpful in answering some questions and providing support both to the school and to some parents who had questions. So, a quick summary, but I think we're off to a good start, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the year, as are all the teachers in the district.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Okay. And then I would ask the board to consider the revised motion on minutes to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on August 27, 2013, the special meeting on September 3rd, 2013, and the private minutes of August 27, 2013, and September 3rd, 2013. For a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? All right. Then go to personnel. Mark?
I'd like the board to consider personnel items numbers 1 through 28. Number 3 is amended, and that was sent to you via email today from Dana. I have a second.
Second.
Mitch, thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, Dana?
Vincent Tessa?
Yes.
Lucy Beaver?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Jeannie Light?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
That's it. All right. Facilities. Dan, you want to give us just a quick update on the roofs and the
Sure.
gyms?
The roofs at Roosevelt, we have 100% of the demolition and the installation of the base sheet completed. We have 100% of the cap sheet completed. So the contractor is now working on some punch list and finish work. We expect by the end of this month, by the end of September, that work will be fully completed. At Washington School, again, 100% of the demolition is completed and 100% of the base sheet is installed. The cap sheet is almost 100% installed. They're working this weekend, weather permitting, and probably will have the rest of that finished. And we also expect full completion on that roof by the end of this month. At the high school, they're working as we speak. After tonight, we'll have, I believe it's 2 small areas of the roof that will need demolition. And that will happen weather permitting at night or on this week or over this weekend. We did not work last weekend because we had a religious ceremony at the high school. So, and we had, I think it was roughly around 1,000 people there. So the contractors were not working. So by the end of this week, we hope to have 100% of the demolition and the installation of the cap sheet installed. They'll continue to work after hours, and by mid to late October, they'll have the cap sheet 100% installed. And then they'll be working on the installation of the metal and that kind of thing, and that project will be finished sometime in November. That's where we're at.
Any questions on the roofs? How about the gyms? The Edison bleachers and the Roosevelt repair?
The Edison bleachers, I believe, are installed, I'm not sure.
Okay.
They're here. I don't know if they got installed this week or not.
Okay, but we're
they're
close on that one.
Yeah, they're on schedule to be installed.
Okay.
The boilers are being hooked up as we speak, and we expect to have those finished well before our October 15th deadline for heat.
Any other questions? Then I will just reiterate something that Mark had said earlier, just to remind us all that in December 2012, this is on the bonds, I just want to repeat sort of the little history here, given its importance. In December 2012, the town of Westfield did pass a bond referendum to replace the roofs on all of the schools and the buildings owned by the Westfield Public Schools. Our plan called for splitting the work over 2 summers, and during the summer of this year, 2013, as you just heard, we undertook the work on the high school, Roosevelt, and Washington School. On May 30th of this year, the state announced that grant funds would be available for school facilities projects that had not yet been put out to bid. And so obviously, the 3 projects that Dana just mentioned at that point not only had been put out to bid, the contractors were lined up and they were ready to get to work. But the board put a pause on the remaining roof work and applied for grant money, as Mark said earlier, to be used for the anticipated 2014 roof projects. And as we've confirmed, and as Mark reported earlier, we received confirmation of a grant award of $2.7 million. But in order to receive those funds, we need to reapprove the portion of the bond that was allocated for the roof work to be done in 2014. So when you vote in November of this year, you will see a bond referendum for the remaining roof work in the amount of $6.7 million. That's the full amount needed to complete the roof, and if the voters approve the proposal, the state will fund $2.7 million of the principal and interest on that bond issuance. If the bond referendum is not approved, the state will not give Westfield the $2.7 million, but the work will proceed as originally planned, and all of the funds needed will be raised through the tax levy as originally scheduled. The Board of Ed supports this bond referendum because we will complete our roof work at a lower cost to taxpayers. I will personally vote for this bond referendum because I would prefer to pay less taxes while getting the roof work completed. That's it. Thank you. Okay. That takes us to long-range planning. Jenny.
No report.
Takes us to policies. Gretchen.
Yes, I would ask the board to consider policy items 1 and 2. Can I have a second?
Second.
One policy 155, which is titled Board Committees, is something that we've seen before, and I don't know if y'all remember, but when we spoke about it before, one of the issues that came up in the policy committee is whether we add the technology and the legislation committees as standing committees. And we decided at that time to let those committees decide, and they did. And they both came back and said that they would like to be added as standing committees, and they also approved the language that we had added, which is what's in red on pages 2 and 3 of the policy. We have one additional change. Rich had pointed out some kind of awkward language. On page 3, under the legislation committee, we are proposing to change the 1, 2, 3rd kind of bullet down to read, when appropriate, facilitate advocacy of parent groups seeking to lobby for the district. It just felt like it gave us a little bit more discretion and just kind of clarified what our role was going to be if there are parent groups that wish to lobby. So, does anybody have any questions or comments about policy 155?
So it's
Yeah.
just moving the when appropriate to the beginning?
And seeking.
Yes.
Parent group seeking.
Seeking to lobby for the district.
Parent groups seeking.
So in other words,
Just pointing out
we
that then
have,
that doesn't start with a verb and everything else does. Just
I'm okay with that, but if you're not, then.
pointing out, I'm fine with it, just want to make sure we're aware of it and making that decision.
I am now.
Okay.
Ginny.
I found awkward language or an extra word in the bullet starting at facilities
Yes.
and moving through town council. So items 2 through 8. The 6th bullet dash. So maybe, consider other matters brought to it by the administration or referred. I wasn't sure why that word "to" is in there.
Maybe it should be to it.
To it, right.
Or just cross it out by the president or by a
All right,
majority.
we can
You
delete
could
that.
eliminate the word or fix it,
Yeah.
but it occurs in
Everywhere.
everywhere. Yeah, all of them up
almost
through 8.
Okay.
Okay, so then in the technology committee, I wasn't really sure that in item number bullet 1, I wasn't sure that we review the district's technology plan as much as oversee it. I think I found oversee somewhere else, in finance. It's an ongoing process and the technology committee has that interactive conversation at every meeting
Yeah, I would,
about what's happening.
I would agree with that.
Okay, so the first bullet, it
The
will
first
be
bullet, the
overview
first-
rather than review.
Yeah.
Did you say overview?
Oversee.
Oversee, sorry.
Oversee. Oversee. On the top of page 3, the second and third dash that start with investigate. Yeah, I wasn't really sure. First of all, I thought these were not necessarily committee objectives. But if they are, rather than investigate, I'd rather see ensure. Ensure new technologies are implemented or ensure new
I think you're right for a committee that it wouldn't be investigate.
No,
Yeah.
the committee doesn't really, that's not our goal.
Right.
But if you can fix language that provides for ensuring that these things are part of what happens.
Mitch, wait, any thoughts?
No, I'm in agreement. I think that part of the committee, at least the non-board members, are investigating.
Absolutely. But I
So-
think for this.
But this is a board committee, this is
Right.
the role of the
So if
committee
the role of
members,
the
the board
board-
members. I mean, we can
But
we can
we
ensure
can
it,
also
we can.
investigate. I mean, I don't.
Are we ensuring the investigation?
No, I just want to
I
make
don't know.
sure
I
that
don't
new
like. I don't
technologies
really
are
like the word.
employed.
I don't like the word investigate. I
No.
guess I would agree with that. I'm not. I think that that's not really what we're doing. So.
Well, you can't ensure new technology.
Right.
I mean, it's really more of an awareness.
Oversee that.
Yeah, help me out.
What about oversee the implementation of new technologies? Oversee, no?
But do we do that?
I don't know, do we do that?
Well, I mean, we do come up with specific ideas at the table. I'm going to turn it to Paul for a second.
I mean, we talk about it, we want to be kept informed,
How about
but
keep abreast of?
There you go.
that would be all right.
Does that work for everyone?
Yeah. Yeah, for those two.
Sure, that's okay with me. Does that work for you, Mitch?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's an article that needs to be put into, let's see, the dash that starts with consider. Consider other matters brought to it by the administration.
Okay.
But they have this one has the it in the end.
We'll refer-
Maybe I'll take out the to it, so
Yeah.
we're consistent, and not to, I didn't mean to be flippant earlier, we can move the when appropriate.
I don't, it's,
Back.
I just wanted to make sure we were.
Actually, I was
making
going to take one
decisions.
appropriate away, but
Well, but it doesn't, we certainly don't want to be obligated to facilitate any parent group that comes to us. Right? I mean, it
Yeah, I think
seems to me
that's-
that there may be parent groups that would come that seek to lobby on our behalf that we don't feel like we want to support their efforts. So,
Well, I wouldn't say that we don't want to support their efforts. I think that we have found at least that some are more qualified than others to actually be supporting the efforts. I mean, I agree with what your idea is. I just think it's really being able to choose, where it makes the most sense for the committee.
So then it would read, Roseanne, it would just say facilitate advocacy parent groups seeking to lobby for the district when appropriate. Works, okay. Does that work for you, Rich? Because
Yeah.
you were the one.
Okay, so staying on legislative.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were finished. My bad.
Well, no, I could add to more.
Oh, keep breast is right there.
Yes, I know. It works, right? The right resolutions and letters. I'm thinking more in terms of recommend resolutions and letters to legislators that communicate board positions. I don't know. What do you think?
But who would write them? Well, you're saying recommend them.
Well, you can write them and recommend them. I mean, they have to be written somewhere. They can come from New Jersey school boards. They can come from anywhere. I don't care who writes them. I mean, that wasn't my focus. My focus was that the committee is recommending.
Okay.
If you want credit for writing, that's okay.
No, I don't want credit for writing them. I'm just saying someone needs to write them.
Well, yeah.
And it might be, I think right should be in it, because at times, the committee does have to write it. So you're not
Well,
only
does the
recommending.
does the policy say right policy?
How about draft and
I was gonna say and
recommend?
draft, yeah, recommend and
Recommend
draft.
and draft.
Or
What was
draft,
the rest
and/or
of your
draft.
sentence?
To legislate and letters to legislators that communicate board positions or
To
advocate board positions, but it's,
To
the reason that we're doing it is for advocacy.
That advocate board.
So, could you say it again?
Positions.
Draft and recommend resolution.
And letters to legislators. Is that who we're writing to, or are you writing to
Well,
anybody?
Well, it might be a letter to the editor.
I wouldn't limit it to just
Yeah, you don't know who you're sending it to. It could be
Oh, you think,
a variety of different stakeholders, whether legislators.
oh, okay, so as a legislative committee, you think you might want to write to the public at large?
Yeah, I have the ability to, certainly, depending on the issue. I think you'd want to
Isn't that
have as
part of-
much flexibility as you
Isn't
can.
that part of planned community relations? I don't know. Okay. Well, I think everybody could do that. I mean, every committee could write. But you think it's of significant value to state that as a part of the legislative committee?
Right, because if it has to do with proposed legislation or legislation we'd like the board would like changed,
Okay,
then
okay. Then I guess we don't have to say who they're going to, but my point was that communicate board positions or advocate for board positions. I don't care either one.
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got it. So that we get,
Sure, I'll be happy with the
because
result.
once we adopt it for first reading, I just want it to be right for second reading. So draft and recommend resolutions and letters for the board to approve and sign that advocate for board positions. Do you want to add on legislative issues? Or no? Okay, that advocate for board positions. Good, does that capture it, Jenny?
That's fine.
Okay.
On the second bullet, Anne, since you're the chair, I'll ask you. Communicate information about state and federal legislation to the board. I think it needs a little article, and public. Do you think it's appropriate to recommend appropriate action? Or and recommend action?
Yeah, I think we could add that, sure.
Okay, thanks.
Actually, the more I look at this, we usually focus on state legislation and
Yeah.
what's going on at the state level. We very rarely have really debated or discussed anything coming from the federal, maybe Race to the Top we talked about.
Yes.
How important do you think that is to have the federal piece in here?
Well, it could be, for example, one piece of federal legislation that does impact us is the legislation for special education.
Oh, okay.
And if there were certain changes to that, it would have quite an impact on our district. So I'd leave it in there. You might
Yeah.
never use it, hopefully, but you might.
Okay.
So there's one more thing that's kind of interesting. At the bottom of the third page, the final, first sentence of the final paragraph. Each committee shall attempt to gather all pertinent facts relating to any problem within its assigned jurisdiction. So problem was an interesting word that kind of jumped out at me. And I was thinking more of problem as topic. Because I don't always see conversations as problems. But that's really up to, I think, other members of the committee who might have looked at this more carefully for a while. But since we're looking into the...
No, I think you're right. I think changing it to topic is more glass half full. Anybody have an issue with
Yeah.
that? Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Anybody else? So with those changes, I guess we can vote. Mr. Spencer?
Yes.
Lucy Beagle? Yes. Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Gallagher?
Yes.
Roseanne Firstad?
Yes.
Ginny Light?
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg? Yes. Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Nothing else from
I
policy.
think we voted on the second one and booked the first.
I had, yes.
You said one
I
and
said
two.
both.
I know
I
you
said
did.
one and two. Is that okay?
I just
Do we have
wanted everybody
that?
to know that they voted on the first, both 1 and 2.
Is that cool?
And that's cool.
Anything else? Curriculum, instruction, and programs, Roseanne.
I'd like to ask the board to approve items 1, 2, and 3 under curriculum, instruction, and programs.
Second.
May I have a second? Thank you, Ann and Mitch.
Okay, I think Ann
We
got
have a
it little
fourth.
quick.
You're not lacking for seconds this evening.
Yes.
So just to review them, number 1 is to approve the overnight field trip to Washington School for 5th graders to attend Camp Spear Eljabar. And this is a trip that is annual and has, from what I hear, been extremely successful and a wonderful experience for students in the Washington school community. Are there questions about that? The second one is for the Westfield High School Marching Band to attend the Mid-Atlantic Championships at the U.S. Naval Academy. And this, too, they have done for, I know, a number of years. And last year, they did quite well, right?
They did.
So it's exciting that they have the opportunity to go again. Are there any questions on that one? And the third one is a new form or some new information that has been compiled in such a way, because it is now a requirement for the Board of Education to approve all field trip destinations. So this is a compilation of the field trips that have happened in the past, that will be happening this year. And so we must approve them. If a school or a class or a club plans a trip within the year, that individual trip will come to the board. And it's the destination that the board is approving. Overnight trips will still come through SIP.
I would just add that this is relatively, it's new for the board to be doing, although, and it kind of came up in policy because soon, I hope, the board will be looking at the school trips policy, and you'll see that we've changed the policy. We're recommending that we change the policy to reflect what is a statutory requirement that the board approve school destinations, although it is not something that we've been doing, but we need to do.
Roseanne, did you review this in the curriculum committee?
We did.
Okay. And you're comfortable with the statements?
Yes.
I noticed that WHS is a destination for many elementary schools. Is that supposed to be the art show?
I think some of them were the art show.
So all city as well?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be worthwhile to educate people who are filling out the form to fill it out more completely.
Well, go ahead.
In SIP, we had a lot more information of where they were going, what date it was, but that is not a requirement for the board to approve. So what is on the board document is just what is needed to be approved, not all of that
It
other
was just a
information.
lot of information, so we were trying to condense it for purposes
It
of
was the
tonight.
class, it was the date, it was the purpose.
Well,
it was the-
that's fine, but, I mean, there's a lot of visiting of WHS. I think I'd like to kind of know everybody's going to WHS for.
The art show.
The art show,
All
all
city.
city,
All
Those are
right.
the ones
I
that
mean,
come to
at
mind.
least name the function, you know. That would be, and then I noticed the three pages from the back, we have Raritan Valley Community College is the participant and the destination is Raritan Valley Community College. Okay then, that's a little tough. So maybe that could be worked out somehow. Vicky's Diner, look at that, US history too.
I'd also add, I guess, to Roseanne for the SIP committee to talk about, it's kind of a pet peeve, I brought it up at the table a few years ago when I first got on the board. But when I look at this list, I also, in my view, I really love to see more historical locations. I really feel that our kids, we're so fortunate where we live in the Northeast to have the ability to visit Gettysburg, have the ability to visit Philadelphia, go to the Constitution Museum. I have family in Detroit that does a lot of these trips that come into Washington and come into Philadelphia, and sometimes we forget how great our own backyard is. And having grown up in this area and had done some of these trips when I grew up, you know, I don't know if this is something that comes up in SIP. I know it's really a teacher, it comes from the history teacher specifically, but as a history buff, I guess I would just put my best foot forward and hope that we see more trips like that. Not that any of these trips aren't wonderful, but I think we're fortunate that we can take kids to the Holocaust Museum, to Martin Luther King Monument, just a lot of these things. I know they all cost money.
I would
realize
agree
that,
with you.
but I think the parents in this town would support that.
I would agree with you.
Yeah,
That would
Peggy,
be
we've talked about
wonderful.
this.
Right,
Yeah.
I would agree also, and I also think one little extra piece is what is really helpful now, although those trips are wonderful, and they tend to be what I often do on vacations, so I would hope everyone else would do the same, but in addition to that, what's really helpful is when you are teaching something, you can show a clip of those places. Now, I know it's not the same as going there, but it's better than it used to be where you were showing a picture in a book.
Right.
Now there are resources where you can also bring it right into the classroom at the moment where you're teaching something. Having said that, I don't disagree with you. Those field trips can be very, very worthwhile.
You can fill up 10 pages with places in the county alone, historical sites.
That's true.
Yes.
That's very true.
So, moving forward for this document that we are asking the board to approve, moving forward for next year and maybe in the future if trips come up during the year, would the board like to see, when not obvious, the purpose?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we can do that moving forward. I'm assuming we can do that moving forward. Is that true or not true?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, are there any other comments?
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Beeler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirstead?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Rowley?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
That's all.
Finance, Mark.
I'd like the board to consider finance items numbers 1 through 10. The one call-out, number 3, is to approve the resolution for our continued participation to purchase electric generation services through the Alliance for Competitive Energy. Just another one of the cooperative pricing programs that we participate in. Second, Ginny? Any questions?
Chris Metzeler?
Yes.
Lucy Beeler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Mark Friedman?
Yes.
Brendan Gallagher?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Light?
Yes.
Gretchen Oley?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
Anything else?
No, sir.
I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record and go to legislation. Ann.
No report tonight.
Thank you. Any unfinished business? Any new business? Technology Committee, Mitch.
No report tonight.
Thank you. Any liaison reports?
Yes, I attended the PTC President's Meeting on Thursday of last week. And there was some discussion about the bond and also some discussion about just policies that are relevant to the work that the PTOs do, including class gifts, gifts to teachers, and conflicts of interest, and I think that was it. And there may have been an additional policy, it's not coming to mind.
Fundraising?
Yes, it was fundraising.
Fundraising, right, thank you, obvious. They also discussed very briefly that I think some of the PTOs were not aware that they have a liaison, and so we referred them to the link on the website. Lori gave them the link, and so don't be surprised if they reach out to you, because they were encouraged to do so, and to give you their meeting schedules, and I encourage them, to do so as well, so that we can keep them abreast of our information and they can keep us abreast as well. So I think that's pretty much all that went down at that meeting.
I was at the PTC Special Education Committee meeting last Wednesday night, where Dr. Weissman and Andrea Lowe and very many people from various child study teams were in attendance, and it was a very informal talk. Dr. Weissman started just giving an overview of the special education services that we do provide. He talked a little bit about the Easy IEP, which is the new program that the district is using for IEPs, and how it has streamlined a lot of the work that the case managers have to do, as well as the administrators in that department do. So it will, in theory and hopefully, and they're seeing this already, that it will provide time for case managers to have more time with kids. So that's a positive. And then there was a lot of open question and answering of people's somewhat personal, but couched in a general way, questions about special ed and different services and how to work through the system. So I think it was a really positive, and it was well-attended night.
Ginny.
As I mentioned, I've attended the Union County Ed Services Commission meeting August 28th, and I'll continue to bring information that I think will help us connect to them. They have a new superintendent, Terry Fogert, so we look forward to progress with them, especially with the Marshall Plan.
Anyone else? All right, I would then recognize the public for questions and/or comments. Seeing no one come to the podium? Any private session items tonight?
No.
All right. Then,
There's only one thing left to say, Rich. You're almost there, buddy. Come on.
we are adjourned at 8:32.
You need a motion.
Oh,
Motion.
have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
No, you need a second.
Second? All those in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? Now. We are
I
adjourned.
oppose.
Can we have the meeting that we're supposed to have in 2 weeks right now?
Yeah. Yeah, we do.